All right, use an appropriate formula to enter the total cost of the books in D4 to D10. So here, there's 4 books, and if you bought all 4 books, it's $40, right? You know that, but the math is 4 times, whoops, I'm sorry, equals B4 times C4. Hit enter, come back up here, and copy it down. Relative cell reference, right? We want this one to multiply together and this one to multiply together. So we started our function or formula, and then we use our copy fill cursor to copy it down. Use an appropriate formula to enter the tax amount using the tax rate in H1. So to figure out the tax, we multiply. So how much is 6.5% of 40? Well, equals, whoops, wrong cell, equals this cell, and we multiply, that's the math, times this cell, and I hit enter. And if I copy this down, why are these zeros? I'm going to double click here. Because it went down to this cell over here, right? So it multiplied 120 by nothing. I'm going to double click on this one. This one multiplied 840 by nothing. It keeps going down. So for this formula equals, we're going to multiply the total cost, and then I'm going to push my function for key using absolute cell reference to H1, so that when I copy it down, D4 will use relative cell reference. It'll go down to D5 and D6, but H1 will stay, absolutely. So I'm going to come back up here and use my copy fill cursor and copy it down. And if I double click, you can see that it always stayed up here, but it used relative cell reference over here. Use an appropriate formula to enter the cost, including tax. So you bought something, it cost $40, the tax was $260. How much is it out the door? That's addition, right? Plus this. And you could use the sum function for 2 cells. Using a plus is okay. And we're using relative cell reference because we want these 2 to add up together and these 2 to add up together. So we do it once, my copy fill, and we copy it down. In G3, type order status. Right, you're going to want to make sure to wrap the text. I'm going to click outside of it. Make sure you're formatting. We need an underline in here. Remember from the other one, we're just going to click on heading 3 again. It puts our underline. The order status. Books need to be ordered if there's less than 20, otherwise no. So equals if, this is an if statement, if the number of books is larger than or equal to 20, comma, then we are at a no. And the word, it's a word, so we have to put it in quotation marks, comma, otherwise they need to order some. Let's see if that works. So when I create this function, I'm not selecting all of these at the same time. I'm looking at each one individually. So we're not selecting the whole column, just starting with the first one. I'm going to hit my enter key, order, and copy these down. Right? And these are 20 or better, so they don't need to be ordered. And these are less than 20, so they do need to be ordered. And each one of these, and it uses relative cell reference, right? When I copied it down, it looked at this cell, then this cell, and this cell. The same thing with our conditional formatting. Select it for your conditional formatting. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay, so it's time. Conditional formatting. New rule. format only cells that are equal to order format. Can pick a font color. I like to choose white sometimes with a dark fill. Say OK. Right? One more time. Conditional formatting. New rule. Only cells equal to no. And okay, so there's our conditional formatting. In cell A14, type book number, cost, order status, and I'm not going to format that. In A15, type book 2. And now we will use our VLOOKUP function to find the cost for book 2 and the order status. Equals VLOOKUP, and I'm going to double click on VLOOKUP, right? I like to start my functions by typing them out. Double click. What are we looking up? We're looking up this book, comma. Where are we looking it up? It's in this table here, right? And the first column of our table is always our lookup values. And we can just select the whole table, not the headings, but just our data. So you can select the whole table, comma. The column index number, I always call that the answer. What do we want? We want the cost. I'll go for the total cost. That's in 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth column of our table. So I'm just going to type the number 4, comma. Approximate or exact? It's an exact match, which means book 2 needs to exactly match. It needs to find book 2 over here. Otherwise, it won't give us an answer. And when you choose that one, false comes up. And we could hit enter, right? So book 2, the cost for book 2 is $120. Order status, same thing. Equals, start my VLOOKUP. Double click. I'm looking up book 2, comma. I'm looking it up in this whole table. I'm grabbing the whole table, not the headings, but all my data. Comma. This time the order status is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Column 7. 7, comma. Exact match, right? It has to find book 2, otherwise we don't want an answer. Enter. So now the cool thing about this is if we update book 2 to book 3, it automatically updates. So make sure when you type in your book numbers here, or it'll be a different kind of number, that there's a space in between, one space. And you type it exactly as it is here. And that's how it finds it. If I do book 7, here's the cost and here's the order status. Okay, in B15, appropriate function that will look up the order status, we did that. Update A15 to say book 7. In G2, over here, type discount. And in H2, type 5%. In H3, type December discount from total cost. And you'll fix all the formatting, text wrap and underlining. So now we want to use an appropriate formula to figure out what the total will be with a 5% discount applied. You need to pay attention to order operations, and the math should calculate the discount and it's subtracted from the total, right? So we know how to figure out the percent. We did it actually with the tax. It was multiplication, right? So if I come here and I do equals my total cost, is it the total cost with tax? No, just from the total cost. Whoops, just one cell at a time. Sorry. Okay, equals the total cost times 5%. And if I hit enter here, I get 2. So that would be $2, right, after you format all this into currency. And then if I subtract 2 from 40, I get 38. So that would look like, oops, minus, and we need to subtract it. I can't put it on the end. If I put my 40 here, I get negative 38, right? So again, equals 40 times 5% gives us 2. I want to subtract 2 from 40. So what I need to do is put it here. D4 minus D4 times H2. I could put parentheses around this, but I know my order of operations, it's going to multiply first anyways. So I don't really need to. And there's my positive number. Now, one other thing I forgot, I want to multiply all of these by this one up here. So let's do it one more time. Equals the total cost minus the total cost times 5%, and I'm going to push my function for key to add my dollar signs. And now I can copy this down, right? It uses relative cell reference for your total cost and your subtraction, but it always goes back to your 5% discount.